bunch of misfits I ever said either.
Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning into another episode of the Misfit Podcast. On today's episode, as promised a few episodes ago, we're going to take a deep dive into an expectation setting exercise. We're going to talk about how the modern world has screwed our brains up a little bit. That's always a fun rabbit hole to jump down. I wish I had a wizard cap on and like a staff with like a, I don't know, like a some sort of
I think if you just
on
crack
top
your
of
knuckles,
it.
you're good to go.
Okay.
You should be fine.
Yeah.
There you
All
go.
right, there we go.
You're
All right,
dialed.
we're good. But before we do that, we'll go through a little bit of housekeeping here. We'll do a little live chat, and then we will dive into that topic. In terms of housekeeping, just reminding everybody that Misfit affiliate, you can get a 2-week free trial on Push Press, SugarWOD, or StreamFit. The folks over at StreamFit were nice enough to create kind of a custom link for us. So now if you go to teammisfit.com/subscribe and click on StreamFit, it will take you exactly where you need to go to get signed up. And that's kind of gym management software and programming all in one, just like Push Press would be. Yeah, I think that's all we got for housekeeping stuff. We're in the throes of phase 3. I got a really good kick out of the complaint of the low volume on that Tuesday that I predicted in the podcast. And then they had 10 rep max back squat into the anaerobic, like the CrossFit quote unquote cube test. And they're like, I am unwell. And it's like, yeah, we got some stuff coming for you. We got some stuff coming for you. I promise. But it did elicit exactly what I wanted it to. I got the DMs that I wanted to get, and we put together some clips and everything. But it was funny to see how polarizing that was. And you're supposed to polarize your training, so there's some intention behind all of this wacky shit that we do. But I got a good kick out of that. And then Sebastian, they can see you, correct?
Yeah.
This is podcast number 1 where you can see Sebastian. So would you say we caused a little bit of a stir with posting Cleo? We got a little bit. That was a big response to that.
Yeah. The people were definitely in uproar, and they loved it.
It's how crazy is that, Hunter, from back in the day? What people would have been like, what are you, fucking stupid? You think I'm going to sit on a machine for 20 to 40 minutes?
Oh,
like
man.
the shift in the community has been wild.
The evolution from, you fucking mean I'm going to exercise
21:59, bro.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Watch this. I'll do triple Fran before I sit on a bike for more than 5 minutes at a time. Yeah,
It's
the
crazy.
evolution of that's come pretty much full circle from
It has.
I don't do machines to like, all right, but only if you let me get off the machine every once in a while and do some like push-ups or some shit. And it's like, all right, we'll let you do your zone 2 with a couple of push-ups, and then it's, can I do fucking 17 hours of zone 2 a week, completely skip CrossFit and go to the CrossFit games? Like, and now we're we're programming machine onslaughts, and people love it. So
yep. Yes, for anybody that doesn't know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 30, 20, 10, Echo Bike Calorie, I think ski and then row. I'd have to go back and look. But we've got some pretty crazy times in there, and then it was cool to see how someone would approach doing better in that workout. So like athlete IQ on the wrong side of the spectrum would be like, hey, we got a couple of 10s and 20s in here. I can really stomp the fucking gas pedal. And it's like, this is one thing. There is no 10 or 20 or 30. Like the only way that that's a thing is if you're coming back down the mountain and realize that you didn't pace correctly. But if you pace properly, there isn't really much modulation to what you're doing. Now, those 3 machines specifically in the dose that they are, in the combination that it is, you probably really got to know yourself and got to understand the situation. So if you fucked that up the first time you did it, I wouldn't be necessarily surprised. But we had one athlete that was like 26 minutes. That was 1,300 calories per hour on the ski erg, which is kind of a unique place to be dropping that. And then we had one athlete sub 25 that held over 400 watts on the Echo bike the entire time, which is just like you got to put
What's the top women's score? Because that's not a modified. That's same calories across the board.
Yes,
right?
it is the same calories. Let me look real quick.
Female benchmark.
Yeah, let me look real quick. So shout out to Jessie Smith. She tested this workout for me with Chandler. Surprise, Chandler's the one with the sub 25-minute time. I knew 24 something would be like kind of the top, like 10 out of 10 score, that kind of thing. But I didn't think he could do it without doing the workout first and then prioritizing certain things and going back to it. So that was pretty crazy. I got a new computer, so my texts aren't on here.
I mean, at that level of fitness, I'll save you here for a second. At that level of the benefit to having such a robust aerobic base, not that Chandler's an aerobic monster exclusively, he's just a monster in general. But to have that, the benefit to having that fitness level is that you can accidentally maybe come out too hot, or you just have the capacity, you have the leeway to see like, okay, I'm 8 minutes into this workout, I see the direction it's going. He's also a super intelligent person, so he's kind of probably doing that, whether it's actual math or just kind of the internal check-in on the fly. But it's like he has that fitness level where if he does go too fast, he can reel it in, and he's not going to be, he hasn't dug himself a hole, or he can learn that like, hey, a few minutes into this, I actually feel pretty good. I know what my capacity is, and I can speed up. So it helps to be intelligent. It helps a lot more to be super fit. And when you've got both of those things, that's a real fucking deadly combination. And it's a huge reason why someone like that performs really well in competition, to have that kind of mental aptitude and kind of self-awareness to make those changes on the fly is not something that a ton of CrossFitters have, at least not at the either aspiring competitive level or even in some instances at the top level. Sometimes you wonder how somebody with the level of fitness and the seemingly opposite level of intelligence makes it to the highest level. But being real fit helps.
It does. Yeah, Jesse was 34.06, and Kenzie said she was about 90 seconds behind her.
That's right.
But Kenzie has asked for a programming sheet this year in January instead of the day before the games. So we're making some fucking moves here.
Progress.
We're making some fucking moves here.
Still looking for socks, but it's in January.
What's that?
Still looking for socks just in January, not at the competition hall.
So yeah, that's just
Weekends.
That's the kind of thing that like makes me happy when the community has that kind of shift, because it's definitely something where even within our own organization, no one agreed with me back in the day of what was missing from the programming. And so that meant I had to go try to sell it to my remote clients as like, the people in your text group aren't going to be doing this. You're going to be doing this. You need a fucking special heart rate monitor device. Imagine that back in the day. And it's just like, this is so dumb. I'm going 0 miles an hour. Like, what the fuck is happening? So to go from that to present day where we're at right now, and obviously we get the overcorrecting bug, which happens a little bit, but so many CrossFitters are aerobically challenged. So even overcorrecting for some athletes probably has some silver lining in it. Live chat. What do we got? Seb, are you going to jump in on live chat?
Yeah, I think you should. It's just the only thing I can probably give any input in this chat. But so headed to Wadapalooza tomorrow. Just excited. I'd never been there before. All these years working in the CrossFit space, so I know it's a little bit of it's a hodgepodge of people, but I'm excited to see what the rave's all about. Especially because the SoCal event that I was at in September was pretty well run. So I'm hoping that with this new venue, it's also like helpful for media folk to get good stuff out there.
Yeah, I can't speak to the new venue. I've been to Wadapalooza, I don't even know, 10 times maybe, something to that effect. And it's the best community event, like hands down by far. There's nothing that even compares to it. But Miami Beach, and Miami proper are two different places. So I'm intrigued, I think, honestly, more by the, like, dumb shit, like parking and where do the spectators stand and where are they sending people for X, Y, and Z. But, like, as someone, like, I would never want to live in Miami, but, like, being from Maine and popping down to Miami most Januaries is not bad.
Right.
So I think you're going to enjoy it. I think you're going to be impressed just by, like, we joke a lot with Wadapalooza. We're in the back and they're like, okay, heat number 6012, 14-year-old boys with freckles on their left butt cheek, division sub 12A. Like, the logistics of what they pull off there is so crazy. Like, it is just nonstop. And then at the end, you just tip your cap to the volunteers, the fucking people who showed up there to wrangle athletes from sun up to way past sundown every single day is wild. So I think you're gonna be impressed by how they do it, and I'm intrigued to hear how it goes on the beach.
Yeah, definitely excited, and also just I know the food down in Miami is awesome, so I'm definitely looking to get some sweet plantains and some white rice and black beans for sure.
Oh, you gotta
the
gotta
food
send
down
me
there's
to
good.
Tequila.
Yeah, we got a spot for you. We got a couple
Sounds
of
good.
spots for you. Yep. What you got, Hunter?
That place is the tits. Oh man, I had a hell of a weekend with my with Jasmine, my 12-year-old Black Beauty. That's my car, by the way.
Yes, that is the one. Oh my, clip it. Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah, she's
All
fine.
right, blackmail material. And keep going,
She's
sorry.
fine. Yeah, go ahead, fight me. She's never let me down. She's been cross country up and down the East Coast a bunch of times. This is too long and too ridiculous of a story for the podcast, but I will say I'm not a car guy. But new achievement unlocked is I buffed my headlights. So you get that film that's super terrible.
You went from 0 to 1, bro. You were still not.
Yeah, hey,
close
it
to
starts
a 10.
with 1, all right, guys. It starts
Holy
with 1.
shit.
I'm not fucking popping the hood, fucking around with some sort of belt that I don't know what the fuck is attached to it. But yeah, it was quite the weekend of headlight out. Tire ran over something, popped the tire, but the highlight was that I now know how to completely buff and restore my my headlights. And man, I'm a new fucking driver out there in the dark. I can see shit past like 14 feet in front of my bumper. It's a real treat.
It's a big return on investment.
Big ROI. Yeah,
Yep.
my the headlights were so like yellow. Basically, like what happens is the UV is like the first thing that like deteriorates them, and it like literally will make the headlight yellow. And so like you're like basically wet sanding the plastic headlight, and like just a film of disgusting yellow. It's like the color of pus almost is like coming off the headlight, and then you just continue to sand it, but you're literally just wet sanding the plastic headlight and polishing them.
I can't add anything to my list. I'm fucking tapped out. That's just overwhelming. The amount of shit that I'm supposed to fucking know and take care of. I'm not sanding my headlights. I'm gonna let it ride.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't
Well,
fucking
yeah.
add
To
that my
be
list.
fair, I
I'm
already
sorry.
had the items necessary for it, and I was like, when I brought it in to get the headlight replaced, I asked at the same time. I was like, "Hey, like, can you guys fix this?" And he's just like, "Yeah, it's $80." And I'm like, "No, it's not."
Yeah, seriously.
Watch this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I get it. The first
that's
time I
fine.
changed my battery. I actually honestly think I talked about it on the podcast. Changed my battery a couple years ago, and I was just like, I'm the smartest man alive. This
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Yeah, I've managed that a couple of times. That's pretty straightforward, but that's probably the extent of my my vehicular knowledge.
Fair. I actually thought about doing a podcast on this, but it feels like, I say first and foremost, like competitive CrossFit podcast. Of course, we talk a lot about the affiliate side of things. We'll go into topics like this, but it's more for performance. So I got blood testing done, and one of my markers for heart disease is like through the fucking roof, like off the charts. Like
what did you use? What
Inside Tracker?
Is that what James did?
No. He showed me the interface for that. So basically, I'm now, like, luckily I'm armed with the knowledge to know what outside of like a pharmaceutical intervention would need to take place. But it's interesting because like I think the reference range for high is maybe like 110 to 130, and I'm outside of the high reference range. My dot is off the chart. So it's one of those things. No, it's ApoB.
Oh.
ApoB. So it's basically a protein that transports LDL and sort of is along the ride for the breakdown of LDL. And the more I look into it, the better I feel about it, just because there's a level of complexity to the relationship between like blood sugar, gut biome, triglycerides, transport of fatty acids, things becoming oxidized, things of that nature. And I definitely know. So like the only panel all the way down, they put it into categories, and the only panel that had anything that they were concerned with was cardiovascular. And it's like, what's the root word there, right?
Yeah. Like
cardio. And I'm still going to strict press 225, so don't even get any fucking ideas about that. But you take my exercise since having a kid, how often I'm exercising, what my exercise is, into consideration. And it's like, I bet with a little bit more adherence there and literally like putting it into my schedule, I can knock that down 20 or 30 points through like what we know how to do about heart health, that kind of thing. And then from there, so that's kind of the top line thing. You just reduce so many risk factors by getting your VO2 max up. So luckily I literally, like, that's my profession.
Did they measure that? Were they able to measure that as well?
No, you can't measure VO2 max without
test.
Yeah. So we'll get to work on that. There are supplements that help, that if people are interested on this topic, I can go down a little bit more of that rabbit hole. And then honestly, the like whole world of course, like if we're talking about gut health and blood sugar, refined carbohydrates are not like my best friend, right? But then there's the like people are about to be triggered about me saying anything about saturated fat, right? So like I've been the amount of iterations of what's right and what's wrong relative to this topic in my life, it's like my head could spin off. But I do know that I have familial, like super high cholesterol. And then I remember back in the day, there was this service that K-Star recommended where you basically put your raw data from 23andMe in, and it will tell you, like, because you hear a lot about, like, why is this diet work for people in this part of the world and not people from this part of the world? And of course, we evolved over a long period of time in different conditions. You sort of adapt. And I don't do as well with saturated fat. Like, I remember my LDL when I was drinking the butter coffee, and it wasn't great. The fucking just heart was pumping sludge. Yeah. So for me, I don't know as much that it's the absence of saturated fat as it is the presence of olive oil, avocado, like things of that nature, things that we know go in and actually help this situation on a like biological level, like in real time, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm exploring the world of lower saturated fat protein options and then dousing them with olive oil basically. But your boys, I'm struggling like a little bit. Like,
what are you are you doing, like like
Dude,
plant-based proteins? Like
no, but I made ground turkey and it's just not good.
Oh man, you got to do chili.
I did. It's fine. I ate it. It's not beef. Like, I think one thing that I know that I love is smoked turkey breast, like from a barbecue joint. How hard would it be for me to get turkey breast and put it on the fucking Traeger, right? Yeah. Like that kind of thing. So I'm going to do that. Need to start eating more seafood, things of that nature. So I've got the things that I need to do related to it. And I'm going to do a little bit of like a kind of quarter, like a 90-day thing, just to see if I can get numbers trending in the right direction, because there are also like partial, like it's not actually pharmaceutical, but there's like people use red yeast rice. I don't know if you've heard of that, in place of statins. And it does something very similar. So just trying to see how long I can go down that and move the needle in the direction that I want to. And it's weird. I definitely feel different about getting that blood test as a father than I did prior to that. Like just the motivation to like get your shit together now so that you're not fucking like drive me to my fucking to my heart doctor appointment when you're 16 years old, like that kind of thing.
I think it's Brazil nuts that have a significant. I know it's Brazil nuts, but I think it's on cholesterol. I was reading in a book. What was it fucking called? How Not to Die. It's a book recommended by it's kind of skewed towards a plant-based diet, which I'm like still finding interesting and like open to new information. It's so weird how like you could literally type in either into YouTube or just the fucking general internet and find like 2 or 3 very reputable professionals with legitimate credentials who say like this is the diet. It's like carnivore. It's like this is the one that's going to save you.
It's dogmatic, dude.
And
that's just how it is. It's
plants,
crazy.
Like there's actually some carcinogens in plants and like they're not as good for you as you think. And then there's another book that's dedicated to like everything that's wrong with humanity is because we're eating animal protein and animal meat and stuff like that. It's just fucking wild. But anyway, I think the study was wild. It was like literally like 1 to 4 Brazil nuts a month or something like that. Had this.
I wonder if I can eat those.
Massive lasting. Yeah, I don't know. Lasting impact on cholesterol. I think it was cholesterol, but yeah, that's an interesting rabbit hole. I should honestly do that because I've got a few. Every year I get my blood markers. Like I have what I would guess is like for someone who runs like a 540 mile and deadlifts 500 pounds and can run for an hour plus on end, like you'd think that blood markers would be a little bit better. And then there's other things like I'm very curious to know like if we'll learn in the future what kind of impact like cortisol and just general stress levels have on blood markers.
It did tell me I was stressed, but I didn't fucking need a blood test for that shit. I got 74 businesses and a fucking 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Kiss my ass.
Am I paying you for that information or what? Like,
oh shit. I think it's interesting because the ApoB one is I said I wasn't going to keep going on this topic, but maybe I will just a little. It's an interesting one because they can't really figure out why we need it. Like the lower you get it, the like less possible at all it is for you to have like heart disease. Yeah. Like for you to end up having something like that happen. So they're, a lot of times they're trying to get the number down, say into like sub 100, 70 to 90. But then there are these like longevity people who are like trying to drive it all the way down into the ground, and they can't find essentially any negative effects associated with it. But yeah, I think anyone who can afford to do, I'd say if you're a super healthy human being every 6 months, is probably a good call, just to make these little nudges in lifestyle and behavior. And then for me, until I like make significant changes related to this, I'll probably go quarterly, and just, you know, I'll let you guys know how all that's going.
Would you say it was again the service?
Inside Tracker. So you can buy the, it's not surprising, Meathead. You hit me with the test retest package. I'm like, okay, I'm in. All right, set the baseline, get to work, find out what the difference is. There are a bunch of different services though, and I think you would use different ones based on what you were trying to get out of it. Like if you felt like you knew what to do when you got the information, I think Inside Tracker is great. There are other ones that are more full service that are like specifically take this many milligrams of this thing and try to do, like Inside Tracker does that, but not to the same extent. Yeah. And then other ones are actually linked to, like, the more plates, more dates guy has his own blood work stuff that is linked to if you were going to do like hormone replacement therapy or peptides or supplements or anything like that. So yeah, that's my life chat. That's where I'm at. Okay, so we had the sort of random things episode a few episodes ago, and one of the things that I had in there, just based on it being in the vicinity of New Year's, was this idea of an expectation setting exercise. And honestly, no one that does this podcast, none of the three of us are competitive CrossFitters, and I think this is a very powerful concept for basically everybody, but it was born out of the competitive CrossFitter and the challenges that they face. I think it's very easy to explain in relation to that. So we're going to use that as our example, but I will also interject with the way that I would think about this from a personal standpoint. And obviously, Hunter, feel free to do so as well. So I think the primer for this that's really helpful, that really sets the tone here, is the idea that so many of us have opted into this like social contract, basically, where we are okay with going and finding out who we're supposed to be from other people. Like the modern world has primed us to look out at everything that's going on, especially at our screens, and say, who am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to act? This is the standard that's being set out there. Okay, now I need to achieve that standard. And if it doesn't scare you that you are not looking inward to figure out who you're supposed to be as a human being, then something's kind of broken here. But the primer to me is like when we get stuck, when athletes get stuck, really wrapped around the axle with these expectations, they come from elsewhere. They don't come from the athlete, right? And I think that that's a huge issue. So when I think of, from the athlete perspective, gazing out to come up with your expectations, your personal identity, all of that stuff, we start to get into looking at what that could be. So it's like aesthetics. What is my body composition supposed to be? I'm going to go see the person that has the most Instagram followers, that is, sort of somewhat close to me as a competitor or something like that. Oftentimes nowhere near as good as you as an athlete or as hardworking, etc. But they look a certain way and they get a certain amount of attention for it. Therefore, I struggle to eat for performance because I need to look a certain way. And that gets extended out into crazy places like clothing, fucking shoes, grips, headbands, sports bras. Like, what socks are the cool people? You know what I mean? And if we just like, this is like such a rabbit hole that you can fall down into, where you're curating all of this stuff again about yourself without even figuring out, like, do I like this? Is this something that I want? Does this fit with where I'm trying to go to? Like, go ahead, Hunter.
No, I was just gonna tag on a little bit. It's really interesting because I've listened to a lot of this topic, at least the idea of kind of like who you are in relation to the rest of the world, because specifically like I don't want to go into like political stuff here, but the like combination of like the identity politics that have been just kind of like rampant in the country over the last 5 to 10 years. A lot of the like actual identity of people who are, you know, the whole transgender thing is created a lot of conversation about like identity and what it is. And one of the things that I've read and learned and that makes sense is like your identity is, there's kind of on the one extreme, it's like my identity is whatever I say it is. And it's like, okay, so there's credence in that, in the sense that there is the individual autonomy that goes along with kind of like how you carry yourself in your day-to-day life. But there's also a line at which that you are attempting to like there is a social contract that you have between yourself and the rest of the world, right? So if I'm a CrossFit coach and I go stand up in front of the whiteboard and I start meowing like a cat, there's people are going to be like, what the fuck is happening, right? And like in today's day and age, maybe like certain parts of the country, it's like, no, I identify as a cat today. And again, try not to get too political here, but there's some people who might be like, oh, like I get it, like you are whatever you want to be. And then on the other end, it's like, no, like I came to the CrossFit gym. You're Coach Hunter for this next hour. Your identity and the agreed upon identity that you and I have is Coach Hunter. And there's a reciprocal kind of agreement that occurs there. So like on the one end, it's important that we have like our social circles to help keep us in check, right? Because like if I start acting like a complete asshole, hopefully I have good friends who say like, hey man, like we don't act like that, or we don't behave like that. But on the opposite end, with the advent of social media and a lot of the just like the fact that previously we might compare ourselves to celebrities that get shown on the news or on television, but now with Instagram, with everybody having kind of their own media channel, I can now compare myself to somebody who is much more closely like whose life is a little bit more similar to mine, right? So I can find somebody on Instagram who's a CrossFit coach, and maybe they're a little bit more successful than me, and they have a following, and it's like, oh wow, I can actually relate more to that person now. I should be following in that person's footsteps. And it's like that kind of intermediary, like the buffer that social media has created has almost bridged that gap a little bit to the place where like everybody is, you know, managing their expectations based on somebody else or something else or some other expectation, rather than like, you know, on the one end, you're not exclusively who you say you are 100% of the time, but you're also, we should not be chasing what somebody else is or has, or, you know, in an effort to become someone else that isn't in line with, you know, your personal goals and expectations, and in this case, like topic, like capabilities, right? It's not realistic for me to say like I'm gonna train and go to the CrossFit Games like without a massive overhaul of my life, right? And that expectation management is where people tend to get lost, because they can just look in their phone and see like, oh, I can see 300 other people who are living the life that I allegedly want to live. Like, that's my new expectation, and it might not work out to be the case.
I feel like my generation was the last generation to, like, you have your preschool bubble, and it's only like 8 kids that you remember exist. And then you go to school, and it's a little bit more. And like your perspective can change. You're shown different ways of how people act and all of this different stuff. And it continues to just like in a very linear way. You college is the crazy one. You go there and you're in a different place with all of these different people. And like, that's how I like made my way through the world. If there was someone, let's say like involved with sports, that I was really trying to aspire to like chase or be, they were probably right in front of my face and not making up a narrative about who they are or what they do. They were literally right in front of me. Like the kid who was just money from anywhere on the court had one of those crazy dads that made him shoot like 10,000 shots in his driveway a day. I knew that was a thing, right? Like that's that sort of deal. And you had all of these examples, but you, for a lot of instances, got to see in real time what they were, and if you were willing to pay a similar price to that person to be them, as opposed to snap my fingers, why am I not them? I want to be them.
Yeah, what you said is the difference maker. It's that like in that sphere, and this is a kind of before, at least early on, like before texting and like the social media side, it's exactly what you said, and that's like those people were in your immediate vicinity, and you saw both like potentially the hard work that went into that person making it to where they were, but also the repercussions and the like the negative implications of that person maybe acting like a jackass. You know, on social, when it's social media, it's only the highlight reel. It's just the positives. It's maybe it's some of the work that it takes to get there, but it's like it's all just that silver lining without any of the negatives or any of the ups and downs that you might see if you are, you know, if you put the phone away and you only exist within the bubble that is, you know, your immediate in real time, in real, like face to face with people. Like that's a hell of a lot different than the 15-second clip of like so-and-so snatching 225 for 15 reps. It's like, holy shit. Like, I got to get there now.
And the world of comparison's weird, because just like, let's say you get 100 comments on an Instagram post and 99 of them are nice, your brain zeroes in on the single person that's being a dick. Comparison is the exact same way. You see someone on social media running at the pace that you run, or lifting the weight that you lift, or doing whatever, keep scrolling. It's fine. When you see someone that you're going to need to compete against, like the old one was always muscle ups. It was always muscle ups. It was like, I'm going to post my max set of muscle ups, or I'm going to post myself doing muscle ups 2 or 3 days a week. And we're going into the regionals workouts one year, and they hit you with a fucking 21-15-9 of muscle ups. And 2 women, China Cho, Mackenzie Riley, they're like, fuck, do I have to go unbroken? And it's like, these are the opposite of what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. These are aerobic monsters, right? Yeah. And like, their feet touch the ground coming off the rings, and it's like lava.
Rest periods.
It's like, it's the floor is lava. I feel terrible about coming down. Like, I'm going right back up. And then the other end of the fucking rig is that I can still picture it. That exact athlete who has the narrative, the like great sponsors, like, and again, separate thing, like, good for you. Like, make your fucking money. Like, go get it. Like, if you can find a way to be a professional athlete in this sport, that's fucking incredible. Congratulations. But whatever, 16, 17 muscle ups to start that workout, they look pretty good too, or maybe they have that really high catch. Yeah. You know, they don't do a ring dip.
Sexy.
Yeah. They came in last in the heat.
Oh, fuck.
So, like, I don't know if that's athlete IQ or whatever it is, but again, these we latch on to these things. IQ. The grass is always greener on the other side, and like, in reality, we have this situation that's just like, come on, all of you played Madden, right? I know that everyone didn't, but everyone played Madden that's listening to this podcast, and you have like 10 things that tell whether your creative player is going to be good or whether this other person's good. So you get your overall rating, but then it's broken down into strength and stamina and speed. Those sliders that move around are not going to be similar to that athlete. They're not going to be similar at all. Like, you are a totally different human being. And that brings me down to like the next bullet point that I have, which is actions. Like, you see their programming, and they're better than you at a single thing, which might have been a strength to begin with, even before they started CrossFit. And it's like, why am I not doing that thing? Why am I not doing that? And it's like, man, who even knows the reality of this situation? So you see their programming, you see their mobility, you see their recovery protocols, and it's like, I need to be doing that. And you get, being like a C-level CrossFit celebrity, you get to fucking peek behind the curtain, and how the sausage is made is not that pretty. Your marketing budget for your fucking sodium tablets or, hot chocolate that makes you pass out or whatever the fuck has nothing to do with whether, from a scientific standpoint, it actually works. If something's being marketed to you by an athlete and they're doing a really good job, it means that they have a good marketing director and a bunch of money. It has nothing to do with, like, get yourself a membership at examine.com and look at the literature laid out right in front of you about what supplements actually work. Don't even fucking look at any of that stuff.
That would be you assuming that Drew's life chat indicated that you need to lower your ApoB. It's like,
correct.
What? Like,
yeah. Do you know?
It's not
you
your
actually
test.
know?
That's you don't
even know what that is.
You heard it 15 seconds. You don't even know what it is, do you?
Yeah.
You just know it's supposed to be low, and that probably means you got to lower it. But without the context, without the actual information that applies directly to you, that's useless.
Top 10 CrossFit Games athletes that get paid to say they follow a program have explicitly told me that they do not follow it in the past. Okay? This is not a present thing. I'm not going to be fucking naming names or companies or anything like that. I'm only saying this to say, when you see, should I be using Ready State or Pliability or any of these companies, what is going to help you do what you need to do? When you're looking for a program, what is going to help you? Like, trying to filter through not being sold on these things is incredible. So to me, that's that second layer where I'm trying to use a scare tactic. If it doesn't freak you out that you're asking other people that you don't know how you're supposed to be and act and what you're supposed to achieve, consider that there's a really good chance that that isn't a fake. So now not only are you asking someone else how you're supposed to act and who you're supposed to be, they're telling it's a fiction. It's a made-up character used to sell X, Y, and Z. Like, and I don't think anybody should be okay with that. Like, again, we're using the examples of the CrossFitter, because this is, like, as a remote coach, as athletes make their way up the rungs of the ladder that they want to get to, they're going to run into this. They're going to deal with this in some form or another. So now we talk about the actual exercise. Who do you want to be, and who do you trust enough to hold you to that standard? How do you set expectations for yourself as an athlete or as a human being? Step one is to set the actual expectations and actions. List out the attributes that you want to embody and the actions you need to take in order to do so. Like, when you think about your daily life. Let's throw out the CrossFit competition that happens every once in a while. Think about your day-to-day. What happens on weekdays and on weekends? You get up in the morning. What happens? What do? Are you making breakfast? Are you taking care of your kid? Are you spending time alone? Are you with other people? You go to your job. You interact with other people. You have to work. You go to the CrossFit gym. Maybe you're a coach. Maybe you're, the open gym member that everyone's scared of because you don't talk to them, like that kind of thing. How do you interact with those people? How do you accept coaching? When you go to read your programming, is it all the high highs and low lows, or is it just like, I'm going to get to work and I'm going to go in and put the work in on these things? Figure out in your day-to-day life who you're trying to be as a person, and then think about what you would need to do to actually make something like that happen. And my personal example here is something that comes from kind of the world of Stoicism a little bit. And it sort of means the opposite of what the question entails. You want to be a good man or a great man is the question. And the idea of it is, society has told me that a great man is do anything possible to get as many people to subscribe to Misfit Athletics, no matter what the cost is. That's a great man. I have more Instagram followers. I have more money. I have more status. I have chosen what other people would decide would make me personally successful. So that's a great man, quote unquote. And then a good man is, how do I interact with my child? How do I interact with my wife? Can I prioritize who I am and the way that I'm acting over what society has deemed success for somebody like me personally? And I'm not saying that it's like not an ongoing battle. Like you're going to deal with getting pulled back in different directions, but really taking the time to say, this is my priority, is a pretty powerful exercise. Because then, especially if you say it to somebody else, you can be put on the spot pretty quickly. Yeah, like, I'm going to make this call this time. And it's like, you said that this was your priority. And it's like, yeah, just this is just like a one-off situation kind of a thing. And that can become a slippery slope. So really think about the normal day-to-day. Like, what do I do every single day? What are my interactions? What is important to me? How am I going to treat my body? How am I going to treat other people? How am I going to recover? Whatever it is, those are the expectations that you need to set and think about how to actually act on them.
Where do you put them in relation to kind of reality? So as far as like, you know, it's one thing to set expectations. It's another for those expectations to be realistic and executable. And is that? Yeah. I'm also honestly just opening the notes that you shared with me like 8 seconds before the podcast to make sure I'm not missing anything.
No, I mean, it's that's one of the reasons why I talk about it from a like, I wake up, my expectation is that I'm going to remember to take my fucking greens, creatine, electrolytes, and collagen in the morning, like start off with water before coffee. I'm going to be even though I know that I have a mountain of work waiting for me, I'm going to be present with my kid and pretend like that doesn't even exist until my wife shows up and we kind of trade, like that sort of thing. Yep. I think going through what you actually do. So like I go to the, competitive CrossFit athlete, that rhythm is very different on a day-to-day basis, but you could, they're so regimented that they could write their day down quickly and think about who they're trying to be and what they're trying to embody in those moments. And one of the things I think that could be really powerful is training could be absurdly stressful if my expectation is to be another human, because you're always questioning in the moment, am I living up to this? Have I become that? Versus like, I'm going to put my head down and work. Like I am committing to every single time that I step in the gym, I'm going to warm up properly. I'm going to take care of my body, and I'm going to zero in on this individual conditioning piece, whatever it is. So I feel like the unrealistic expectations come from, again, cooking up this other scenario. Like this isn't my life right now. And we talked about the perfectionism thing on the episode near that time, and that's what happens. That's the exact moment where the person says, I don't currently do any of these 72 things. 72. Let's go. Here's my new set of expectations. Good luck there.
I'll take this in a slightly different direction here. For me, I think part of the exercise should be as well, when we're setting the expectations, is the assessment of the reality of that, not necessarily even is this realistic, yes or no. It's, is this realistic? Let's assume that it is realistic. And now what needs to happen? What are the checkpoints that need to be hit in order for me to go from where I am to where I want to be? And the different direction I'll take this is that, so I'm going golf here. So this past year, I've found that my expectations, probably on just a day-to-day basis, I think I had a good goal at the end, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, but the manner in which I got there, I think, was unrealistic, because I'm lucky enough to play with a couple of very good golfers. My playing partners are close to scratch golfers, which is very good for those who don't know. One thing that has helped me a lot through a lot of just watching videos and listening is understanding the statistics of golf. So for those that don't know, like, golf is a game where metrics and statistics are kept like on every single shot. Like, it's wild. And as an example, I'm looking at a massive chart here from, I'll ask you guys, and maybe you have no context for what this actually is, but if you're a PGA Tour player, you're a professional golfer, one of the best golfers in the world, from 50 yards away from the hole, how often do you think that player gets the ball on the green? From 50 yards away, the ball anywhere on the putting surface. What percentage of shots get on the putting surface from a professional golfer?
40%.
90%?
88%. So 88% of them are on the green. Only 37% of them are within 9 feet of the hole. So almost 60% of them, over half of them, are 12 feet away or further. So my point,
that's what I was thinking when
like,
I'm watching, like, half of them, that's not a makeable putt. That's kind of where my brain went a little bit.
Yeah, no, so this isn't, and that's not a putt. That's like this is a chip. This is like a chip from off the green. So, and that's a common thing for an amateur golfer.
Oh, no. I meant it's not makeable once they get it on.
Like, exactly. So so the odds that they're putting even something from 50 yards away within 3 feet of the hole is less than 10%. Like, and so that the reason I use that distance, that's a somewhat common, that might be a common shot that an amateur golfer has to hit. And the expectation is that I'm so close to the fucking hole. Like, if I don't hit the green, like, what the fuck am I doing? And it's like, well, actually, like, only 8.5 out of 10 professional golfers hit the green. So 1.5 out of every 10 of them miss the green, just like you. And if you happen to hit it onto the green, like, the fact that you are anywhere within, say, 25 feet of the hole means that you're, like, in a category with 75% of the best golfers on the planet. And that sort of, like, again, the big picture point here is that, like, if your expectations are so lofty and it turns out that they're not even realistic for the best of the best, you're trying to obtain a level that is even better than the best of the best just simply because you don't know, like, you're going to find yourself super frustrated with your progress, with your performance, whatever. It's like, if I don't, and in CrossFit, it's the same thing. It's like, if I don't have a certain strength, certain level of strength, like, it doesn't matter what the other metrics are. Like, we need to focus on getting you 5 pounds heavier, 5 pounds stronger, like, incrementally in order to get there, rather than assuming that you are either going to just naturally perform at that level to begin with, or that it's going to be easy to get you from the place you currently are through all of the kind of steps that it takes to get to that final goal, that final expectation that you've set for yourself. And, like, to come full circle, like, for me, that's freeing in a lot of ways too. It's like, wow, turns out, like, if I hit the green from 150 yards away, like only 75% of PGA Tour players hit the green from 150 yards away. Like, if I hit the green, I'm the fucking shit, you know? It's like, if I miss the green, it's like, oh wow, like, so do a whole shitload of other professional golfers, and that's fine. And that tempers your expectations. That allows you to say, like, okay, like, I'm going to move on to the next shot. Or, okay, like, yep, I added 5 pounds to my snatch this phase. Great. Let's add 5 more pounds the next training phase. And it's that incremental kind of progress combined with expectation management of reality that's going to kind of free you in a way that, you know, it's like, hey, this is not going to happen tomorrow or the next week or the next month. This is an iterative process that requires correct expectations, or just an understanding of what, like, this is where you want to go. Okay, man, here are the steps that it's going to take to get there. Are you willing to do those things?
Yeah, and I'm glad that you went in that direction, because only certain parts of what you said are even allowed in this exercise. You getting onto the green is not allowed in this exercise, right?
Oh, okay.
Because of all of the factors that could come into play, like you deciding what the fucking weather is, the condition of the course, like, whatever the fuck. the expectations that you talked about is I'm going to buy into that iterative process. Yeah. I have an expectation that I know that the most likely way that I'm going to get onto the green more and more is I'm going to practice X amount of times a week when I'm not actually on the course. Yeah. That is the expectation that I believe needs to be set in this instance. We can't, there's so many things outside of our control. We're not going to get to decide the programming. We're not going to get to decide who we're competing against. We're not going to get to decide all of these factors that would change your ride up and down the leaderboard. You get to decide the way that you attack your day-to-day, what you want to hold yourself to. And you're also going to, step 2 is incredibly important here because, like, these people are driving themselves into the fucking ground, right? Like there are going to be days where CNS is tanked, like multiple muscle groups are torched, like anything negative happens and you're ready to fucking throw them up, like get the hands up, see what's good. That's why. So step 2 is define your bubble. We talked about a little bit about these, like what social groups used to be versus how we view them now. Identify who will be around you to witness your attitudes, your actions, etc. So who could actually view this? And that's everybody, absolutely everybody. Then whittle that down to the people that you trust, who have your best interests at heart, but will also hold you accountable. So we have every single person who would actually like know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Then we have narrowed that down to who has our best interests at heart, and bless them, all of them, but half or more will not call you on your bullshit. They really will not. So that accountability piece is an extra layer. And that gets us down to this tiny little bubble of people who see how we act. We've told them what our expectations and actions are supposed to be. They really do want to see you succeed, but they will be like, hey, that interaction that just took place out on the gym floor, like go apologize, or go, butter up that person, do X, Y, and Z. You've been training really hard, but you're like trending towards injury because I haven't seen you do a couch stretch in 6 fucking months. There's so many iterations of what these things could be, but that bubble, defining it and then letting them know what you're trying to hold yourself to is so incredibly important. Like I'm glad that there is this huge uptick in media related to competitive CrossFit. It's good for the sport. It's good for the athletes. But Joe Schmo, like you hearing someone say something about you that doesn't know you and doesn't know anything about your life or the way that you train or what your attitude is, and they're the like judge, jury, executioner, is just crazy. It's madness. Like, who the fuck is that person? You don't even know who that person is. You don't know if they're smart. You don't know if they're a fucking moron. You don't know if they're just saying things to get...
Might not even know if they're fucking real.
Yeah, seriously. But they might just clickbait, right? Like they're doing their job. They're just, they decided before the show, like you watch the sports, the things on TV, like if there's 2 sides to an argument and both people agree off camera, they're going to decide who disagrees and then jump into it and start arguing over it. And like, that's going to get you views. That's going to sell products from sponsors, all of that stuff. So like, I think honestly, the basis of where this all started was at least a dozen athletes have said to me that competing is so hard because their inner circle spends thousands of dollars to travel to wherever they're competing, and they don't want to let them down. That is such a super common one, such a massive thing. And it honestly makes me smile in the moment because it's like, why do you think we're here? Dude, if you're fucking fantastic at CrossFit, but you're a dickhead and like you don't fit into the crew and like this isn't working well, I'm spending 75 cents. I'm not fucking meeting you at the coffee shop down the street. Like, the people are here because of who you actually are as a person. And maybe the expectations that they have from a realistic social contract, to go all the way back to the beginning, like, they're there to support you because they believe in you and you like inspire them and motivate them and all of that. That can't change with one weekend. And if it does, they gotta go. Like, fuck off. Like, how many times have we seen over the years the like coach from X programming camp is like surrounding the athlete that's like got a little bit of buzz because the cameras are there, and then they're in 19th on day 2, they gone. They're not there.
Man, we talked about that. I don't know if we talked about it internally or on a podcast, but the number of, like, you see it in every major competition, like day 2, day 3 roll around when the leaderboard's shaking out to be close
nobody
to
back
what it
there.
Finally is. It's like, where the fuck are all the coaches? Like, all the athletes are back here still warming up, but like coaches, it's like, well, yep, we're in the place that we're in, and like, all right, I'll catch you after the event. Like, don't forget to cool down. And yeah, it's insane. It's amazing.
So Johnny worked his ass off. 29th fittest person on the entire planet, but 29th doesn't have that good of a ring to it. So make sure he like does his, band exercises and warm up, like shedding a tear because everyone has disappeared. Like, that's another part of this ecosystem. It's not the same exercise, but like, if you've been through that and you feel that way about the people that are in your corner, like, make sure your coach's pass goes to the right human being. Like, that's huge. So again, like, the entire impetus of having these types of conversations is watching all of these human beings do this impossible thing, this impeccable job of holding themselves to this like crazy standard and not even realizing that like that's the thing. They do such a good job of it, but it's not exactly what they've curated from this fake thing somewhere else. And like, those are the kind of people that you want to help. You want to like set the record straight a little bit. And also, how long is your body going to cooperate with double sessions year round? Like, blink and you're 35, 40, 45, 50, however old you are, when you stop having this be your main thing. And would you have rather worked on yourself as a human or been like, so-and-so looks pretty cool on my phone when I'm in bed at night. And I tried to be them for a decade and it didn't work, and now I got to start over.
Yeah. It's also probably not that great.
No, no, probably not. And if it is great, it's probably not their life.
Yeah, fair.
But I think it's interesting. Obviously, you guys have the perspective of being professional coaches at such an elite level, and I can draw that parallel to. I had a conversation with a fellow media guy, and comparison is a thief of all joy, right? And he was talking about like, hey man, like I'm doing the same things that are trending, and like, but my stuff's not getting anything, and like that instant validation that he's seeking, or perhaps a CrossFit athlete seeking, they're posting a PR on their snatch or whatever. And it's like, sometimes you just got to slow down and be like, it is just Instagram. Like, your worth as a human being has nothing to do with how many likes you got today. Because tomorrow you might post the same video and it probably can pop off. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And I think it's like, for such a successful person to like be worried about that, it's just drawing the same conclusion that you guys mentioned. It's just like, we live in this state that now like our self-worth, or at least most people, comes from a place of like complete strangers give us that self-worth, instead of that immediate group who's going to check you and tell you like, hey man, like that's not the way the sauce is made, and just take a chill pill.
Well, and what an incredible metaphor too. You're talking about art right now. Like, I think my nature versus nurture, my nature is art and my nurture was like fucking clang and bang, lift some weights, play sports, etc. You're talking about an artist, a true artist, trying to duplicate what someone else is doing for that just doesn't fit, right? Like, that doesn't line up with probably what made them passionate about this thing in the first place. I have this unique perspective. I have this like certain style of the way that I do things. I bring some of me to the table here. And like, especially with art, like once it's out into the world, other people can do whatever the fuck they want with it. They love it. They hate it. They're interested by it. They never want to see it again. Like, that's a bit of a complicated thing, but I think it's such a great metaphor. Like, you were trying to, like, you're an artist and you were just trying to see if you could trace the outlines of someone else's thing, and then you're wondering why you weren't fulfilled. Like, kind of stacks up, doesn't it?
Jim.
Hunter, final thoughts. Putting you right on the fucking spot.
Yeah, it's all right. I was expecting that. Expectations. There it is. Yeah, I like the takeaway. I think my main point in this podcast was that when you're setting those expectations for yourself, like once you do that, I would do that without audit. I would say, like, what is like the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal that you have? Like, don't sell yourself short. Let's just say I want to qualify for the CrossFit Games. You're a beginner. You just finished up beginners class and you love watching all the competitive CrossFit videos and you're like, yep, I want to qualify for the CrossFit Games. The next and most important step is to either, like, yourself or more likely find either those friends within that close bubble or, a coach, and define, like, what are the steps that are required to get there? What is to go from where I'm at to where I want to be? How many steps might there be, and like what are the things that are required? And then, like, once you've kind of laid those things out, that's when I think you need to reassess your expectation and say, like, is this actually realistic? Is this something that, like, I have the time, the resources, the energy, the actual legitimate interest to put the level of work in that's required? Because again, what you see on Instagram, if that's a 15-second clip, that is 15 out of the 84,000 seconds in the day that somebody else posted on Instagram for the sake of attention, essentially, right? It's for this sense of validation and attention, and that's fine. I'm not putting that down, but the point is that, like, you need to be within, kind of identify within your own bubble, within your own set of expectations, how I need to go, what I need to do in order to go from A to B, and then how realistic is it that I can actually get there. And then maybe that requires adjustment of the expectations. And when your expectations and reality are more in alignment, and there's actually there's an actionable plan that is executable, that's feasible to do. It's not necessarily easy, but it's feasible. That's when you're kind of in the zone, as far as, like, yeah, okay, I have a plan. I think this can work. I know it's going to be difficult. I need to make sacrifices here and there. But, like, if I do that, this expectation that I've set for myself now could become a reality within, whatever time frame that you and your coach or whoever, establish. So with those expectations, you have to make sure that there's a plan that is attached to that, and that plan is realistic and executable. And then from there, it's like, hey man, good for you. Get after it.
Yeah. I think it could be interesting to do somewhere down the road an episode about goal setting and how it would work within this kind of system. Because for me, when an athlete is dealing with these kinds of thoughts and, the comparison and all of that, I really want to narrow in on who they want to be as a human being. Like, what standards are they setting for themselves? And there can be plenty of it related to training. Like, I am going to do X, Y, and Z. But if we're always just stuck on the number, the lift number for that day, the average output on the machine, your score compared to another person's score, and not asking yourself, like, did I give this what I agreed to give it? Did I warm up the way that I was supposed to? Am I taking care of my body? Am I drinking enough water? Am I eating? Am I weighing and measuring my food? Am I, again, scrolling through Instagram to find out who I'm supposed to act like tomorrow at 11 p.m. or am I actually fucking in bed sleeping? Like, setting those expectations of who you want to be as a person, what actions it would take to actually be that person, and then defining your bubble. And I want to double down on the bubble to finish, just because you are going to fuck up 100%. This is all the way back to the perfectionism thing. Like, if it's, the expectation can't be I'm going to be perfect, because no one's perfect, right? Like, talked about, like, so you're perfect. That's cool. That's like, how's that working out for you? That's amazing. Congratulations. So realizing that you're going to fuck up. Like, I don't know if that could be step 3. It's like, set the expectations and actions, define your bubble, fuck up, and refine. Like, that kind of thing, right? If we can get to a place where we are holding ourselves accountable for those things, then so many of the things that you wanted will become possible. But if we're all over the place all the time emotionally, and donating the level of stress that we should be giving to our training to, like, oh my God, like, I don't have X endurance tablets, I'm fucked. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just stuff like that. It's like, that's going to be a problem.
The bubble's important too, because that grounds you, in my mind. If you don't put that goal out there, and not just like in your diary on paper, but like actually communicate it to somebody that you trust, or a group of people that you trust, that's now out there. Human beings are inherently bad at holding themselves accountable especially when the goal is like held internally. It's like, you're going to bargain with yourself all day about how you adjust that thing, but when you put it out there and you tell somebody what it is, you have that bubble. All of a sudden, that gives it life and a reality that you can actually like build to.
And it could be a further audit of whether it's realistic or not.
For sure, yeah.
Like, why don't you dare to say this to X person? Like, that either is an audit on, should they be in your bubble, or is it realistic? So if you're unwilling to vocalize it, that can be a problem. Seb, you got any final thoughts for us?
Hey, you guys hit everything, but I would also say, like, stay committed, right? Like, once you find that inner voice of, like, you look deep within and, hey, I truly believe that this is what I want to pursue. I'm being realistic with the expectations that I'm setting down. I have a small community that's going to hold me accountable. You gotta be able to stay committed to that, because then you're going to be like those people that like picks a new hobby every other week and never achieve anything.
Yeah, this is a lifestyle, not mental masturbation kind of a situation. I listen to this podcast. I'm going to write up a few things down on a piece of paper. And then next week, I'm going to find a new podcast and a new piece of paper and a new like X, Y, and Z. So that's a very good point. All right. Did we do it?
We did it.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Misfit Podcast. You can head to misfitathletics.com to get signed up for your individual programming needs. You get a free 7-day trial on Fitter. You can also head to teammisfit.com/subscribe, or just teammisfit.com. Click sign up now, and you will see you can get a 14-day free trial at Push Press, SugarWOD, StreamFit, or you can sign up directly on our website. We'll see you next week.
Later.